Today I wanted to talk about antique and reproduction carriages and the importance of preserving tradition. This carriage here beside me is a beautiful reproduction carriage built after an antique style, and it's important that we preserve these traditions for the future. We've been building carriages since Roman times. This beautiful roof seat brake beside me is a modern reproduction built on traditional lines, although using modern materials and modern roller bearings in the wheels. Looks and feels and drives just like an antique carriage, and why antique carriages and antique driving styles worth preserving. I believe it requires more skill to drive an antique style carriage across terrain. This one by me has original antique style block brakes. It's suitable to drive with a pair or a four. It has swingle trees, which would allow it to be driven with breast collars if you chose, or full collars. Traditionally, this carriage would be more appropriately seen with full collars, with a pair or a four. Here at Mantride Carriage Drive, we are deeply embedded in the Achenbach system, and we use that because driving traditional vehicles like that, it allows your right hand to be free to operate brakes, use your whip, do many things that modern competition driving doesn't give you a chance to do. You know, while we're talking about competing, the Achenbach system is good for about 99% of your everyday driving needs. You know, the only time Achenbach system really doesn't work well is for driving modern competition carriages very quickly through obstacles. You know, everything else the Achenbach system is capable of doing. While we're on the subject of competitions, one of the competitions that now are sweeping Europe is Attelage, which promotes the use of antique and reproduction carriages. In fact, you can only use an antique or a reproduction carriage for that style of competition, and it mimics the modern CDE competition, but for antique vehicles. There's a presentation, there's a difficulties, and there's a cone section. I've had the benefit of driving at an Attelage event a number of times. One of the most memorable events I attended was Cuts in France, and we had a presentation around the beautiful chateau and then out onto the marathon with their difficulties. And their difficulties, as the name suggests, were somewhat difficult. One of their most challenging difficulties was the camber of the road sent your carriage off into the ditch, and you had two chalk lines that you had to keep the near side back wheel of your coach within, and it was quite a challenge to do that. While we're on the subject of cuts, one of the most famous and most popular difficulties at cuts was you had to drive up to a post, collect a glass of champagne, drive between two chalk lines to another post, whilst drinking your glass of champagne and put it down on the post. Everybody thought this difficulty was amazing and super fun. Whilst working for Andreas Nemetz, I was invited to participate in a German Attelage, where we took a tandem to a Whitechapel cart. One of the difficulties at that competition was to park your leader between two cones and answer 10 questions. And you scored extra marks if you could stand there without having to put a groom down. You had a beautiful forest drive for the marathon, and then back through a tented village was another part of one of the difficulties. Attelage is now becoming increasingly popular in England and Europe. There has been one here in the United States as well. And I firmly believe that as people here in the United States get more experience of this style of event and competition, that it will firmly grow here as much as it has in Europe, and people will have lots of fun with the antique and reproduction carriages. Sadly, looking back, Walnut Hill is no longer with us, and as you look back at their format, it represented an Attelage pretty well, and the carriages had to drive through obstacles, including a water splash. So all in all, Attelage is super fun, challenging, and it's incredible to see these antique and reproduction carriages out being used and people smiling and having fun and enjoying them. And it helps preserve traditional carriages, traditional styles of driving, and driving across country, whether it be on gravel roads, blacktop or grass. People are getting out, enjoying their carriages, driving them, which promotes antique driving styles and makes owning and using these carriages just so much more fun than just purely taking them to a show and driving them around a show ring. So drive on down the road and enjoy your reproduction in antique vehicles.